All right, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Procreate gestures that you can learn to help you be more efficient and speed up your work. If you'd like to see what those are, just keep on watching. Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking about the Procreate gestures that make your life so much easier. I don't know all of them by heart right now, but I am learning, and sometimes I feel like if you can pick one gesture like a week to learn, I think you end up feeling like, okay, I got this. I can commit this to my memory and everything is going to work out for me. So let's just talk about those gestures right now. So let's say I'm writing something, and the more I pick up my pencil and let off of the screen, the more steps it's creating in Procreate. So you can undo, up to 250 times, which is pretty awesome in here. And the way you do that is just hit 2 fingers every time you want to undo. Now you could use the undo button over here, but that's a neat way to just kind of get you going in there. Now, how do we redo things? 3 fingers. Brings things back. Beautiful, easy one to learn. One of the things I think we could learn first, make your life a little bit faster. Out of habit, I tend to go over to the undo button, so I'm going to try to make that more of a habit for myself as well. One of the next things to do, and I'll show those layer things here in a minute, but the next thing to do is to talk about a quick line. And I get you asking me this all the time because I've talked about it in some other videos I've done. The quick line is going to allow you to draw a line that is straight, like perfectly straight. So the way to do that, and I mentioned up here in the tools under preferences, you can adjust the quick line delay. I have mine at 0.65 seconds. Adjust yours accordingly to what works for you. All you're doing is you're going to begin drawing, and then while it's still drawing, hold down. You'll watch it snap, and you're going to create this line that you can now drag and move until you're happy, and then release it, and it is like perfectly straight. And then you can come in here and duplicate the layer, which again, I'll show you layers here in a minute, and move it, and then these are going to be perfectly perpendicular to each other. So again, it's called the quick line. If you're having trouble with that, maybe go in and make an adjustment to your preferences on quick line, and it might help you out a little bit more. So the next gesture is the erase a layer. So let me just create a few layers. And on the first layer, I might write in my name. I'm gonna just do this really fast. In the next layer, I might put in like, oh, a little flower here. And then on the next layer, I might come in and just do like, I don't know, a little flourish or something here. So it's, again, really rough here, guys. So to scrub a layer, I'm just going to click on the layer, okay? And 3 fingers, sorry, I didn't do it just right the first time, removes that layer. I drew accidentally because I put my 1 finger down right away. So I can go on another one, hold down 3 fingers, hello, move it, and then it moves it away. It's not something I use. I don't feel like it's fast enough for me. I'm just better off coming up here and clearing a layer or deleting it myself. So that is another tool that you could get used to using. So let's talk about pinching and zooming and all that stuff. So you can zoom in by using your 2 fingers here, zoom in by just moving it in, and you can also rotate it. And rotating allows you to just, you gotta be careful that you're not gonna draw on it like I just did. Now, if you want to do a fit to screen, pinch inward quickly like that, and it will fit everything to your screen nicely and perfectly. All right, so let's talk about cut, copy, and paste. Now, this is something that I find pretty useful, and it's not really anywhere else in the tools, so you need to use those pretty easily. So let's say I'm on the holly layer. Let's just delete that one. Let's say I'm on this layer here, okay? What I need to do is first click my selection tool, which is the arrow, and that's going to select it, and you'll see that then that item on that layer is selected. With 3 fingers, I'm going to drag down on that particular selection now, and now a menu pops up where I can cut, copy, cut and paste, and all that sort of thing. So say I want to cut it and make a new layer, and then I can come over here to my tool image and paste. I can paste it that way. I can also, let me see, select it, and I could do a copy and paste, and it's going to paste a second one on that layer. Oops, and I can move it around if I want to. So that 3-finger thing is how you're going to get copying and pasting. If you're concerned or have been wondering how to do that, that's how you do that. All right, so let's talk about merging layers. So if I were to say create a bunch of things and I want to make it all on one layer, you can take 2 fingers and pinch the layers together. So in your layers palette, you would open it and simply drag them together where it pinched them, and now they're on one layer. Now the only way to undo that is to immediately undo after you start doing other things. You want to make sure you have enough undos to fix that if that's not something you want to do. All right, so let's talk about layers for a minute. So this is one of the files I did for my holiday lettering videos. And the layers palette is very much like Adobe Photoshop, if you're familiar with that. You create different layers so that maybe you want to work on something differently or make something a different color, or you're not sure if you're going to keep it. That's going to help you keep things separate. You can notice the layers based upon how they're named here. So we can name our layers. We can click on it, click rename from the pop-out menu, and name it if we want. On that pop-out menu, we also can do a selection, which is like a mask kind of. It's going to select that particular layer item there. I don't think I have anything on that one. So let me go to this one. And, oops, select. And what it does is selects, and it looks like it has like this weird kind of thing going on in the background, like little diagonal lines here. It's how you know that you selected it. And I'll show you some things with that later as well. I can also copy that layer and paste, and then I could fill it. I can clear the layer. I can also do an alpha lock, which is masking, and there's a mask and there's an alpha lock. There's a little bit of complexity to that, and I will talk about that later. I can also reference merge down and combine. So I want to merge the 2 layers. I can also hit merge down, or I can pinch layers together. Combine down is going to allow me to create layer groups. So let's say I want my text to be in one layer group. I can click on the top one above it, hit combine down, and it creates this new group and puts those layers in it. So I can name it text, and then I can close it by clicking that arrow, and it just makes my layers a lot more easy to work with. So the thing about Procreate is that depending on the size of your document, you can have an enormous amount of layers. Now, the bigger the file size, the bigger the document as far as size and DPI goes, the less amount of layers Procreate allows you to have. So just be aware of that, so that this makes it so easy to keep things grouped if you're working on a really large project. You can also click on a layer and move it out of a group, or move it above. You'll click on it and hold, and just move it above and below different parts. You can also left slide to delete the group, or to duplicate a layer. And you could duplicate a layer, click on this, say you want to click on the selection, and you can move it. And that's how I create some drop shadows, which I'll show you at another time. So you can also lock a layer so it can never be moved. So it locks it, which is really helpful if you don't want to make any mistakes or mess anything up on a layer. So layers are going to give you a lot of options here. So let me go to another file that's a little easier to see. Let's go into one of the quotes here. I'm going to click on this one. So in this one with my layers, you're going to see that I'm going to turn them off by clicking on the little boxes here, the check boxes. You start out with a background color. Now the background color, if I click it, I can come in here and change the color, or I can come into the palette and change it from here. I can turn it off and just have, it free floating above it. So this layer here is going to be my shadow layer, and then I have my file layer that I've created, and then I have my layer above it where I've created the offset text. So I have 3 different layers here. So you can also click on the, say, this little in here, and what that does is it opens up some things for you where you can also adjust the opacity of that layer. You can change the blend mode of it, like multiply, linear burn, color burn, darken. I don't mess with those too much, but that might be something you're interested in. I can also click on lighten and change some things with that. I can adjust the contrast, the difference, and the color. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, that is something that might look familiar to you, that you can play with and adjust as well. And to close that, just hit in. All right, so alpha lock, when we turn that on, all you're doing is going to the click on the actual layer, and you can hit alpha lock, and you'll see that it creates a kind of a mask to it that allows you to come in and draw, and see how it, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the alpha lock is only filling in that, and I don't have to do the selection. It's just kind of like it's selecting it for me. Let's see what else I can tell you guys about layers that you might be interested in. If I want to create a new layer, just hit the plus button, and that allows me to create a new layer there. So getting used to layers is really something that is helpful. You can do a lot with them and create or have more control over your projects when you do that. Okay, so there's also the option to adjust the layer opacity that I wanted to tell you about. So layer opacity, so say I'm going to turn off alpha lock on that one. Say I'm on this layer here, which is my filled colored layer here. If I were to click on the adjustments, I could click on opacity, and I can slide and change it so that it reduces the opacity and moves it down. I can also do a Gaussian blur on it, which it's kind of hard to see on this particular one, so we'll just know that that's what you do, and I'll show you some of that here later. The different blurs here. I can also adjust the hue saturations of my colors here if I wanted to. And I can also recolor based upon what I had up here. So I'm not a fan of the recolor. It's just not something that I like to do, but you may prefer to do it. All right, so let's talk about how you can do a shortcut in reducing the opacity. If I have a lot of layers here, if I click 2 times on a layer, then it brings up the opacity thing and I can move it back and forth. So that saves me a lot of time. That is something that a shortcut that I really do like about Procreate as far as the gestures go. Okay, so I've gone over the basics of Procreate. A lot of it are things you may never use. A lot of it are things that you may need to consciously get used to using. And I could go on forever about Procreate, but honestly, I'm really gonna be here to show you just some things as far as teaching you how to use it for lettering, and plenty of my videos here on YouTube show you some things and some tools that you can use that might help you later as well. So if you want a more in-depth training on Procreate itself, you might want to download the Procreate handbook available at their website. It's absolutely free, and it is very helpful, and in color, it's very, like, a lot of pictures, and instructions are very easy to read and understand. All right, so we've gone over the Procreate gestures, and I hope that that's helped you and given you a guidance on Procreate a little bit more, and we can get diving in onto the next section. So I'm gonna see you guys in the next video.